Greetings, everyone. It's Keith Billick here. I hope everyone's doing okay today, hanging in there, staying safe. I really appreciate you all joining me. It's nice to see you back here for another episode of the Picky Fingers Banjo Podcast. I feel like I have a lot to tell you about. Now, where should I start? Well, last time I plugged that Banjo Camp Banjo Summit, and I'm just getting back from the camp. And by getting back from the Banjo Summit, I mean I'm in the exact same seat that I was when I attended the Banjo Summit, but it did feel like quite a journey because, man, oh man, there were some high caliber players, high caliber teaching going on. I consider myself a pretty well-versed, experienced player, and a lot of it was over my head, but I'm really inspired by it all and looking forward to chipping away at the information that I was able to get. And probably best of all was the fact that I got to chat a little bit with a few of you who attended, so it was really great to put a few names and faces together, and maybe I'll even recognize you if we run into each other in real life, when real life, starts happening again, of course. It made me actually think and realize I think that's the first time I've actually ever been a banjo student. I've never taken lessons formally myself, and all the camps that I've been at have been as either a faculty member or, sound crew or something like that. So it was a new situation for me, and I'm really glad I did it. I don't know why I waited so long, because it was a great experience. So highly recommend Banjo Summit. Other exciting news, there is a big end of the year sale at the Picky Fingers merch store. A lot of you have probably seen photos of people, very cool people I might add, sporting their Picky Fingers official logo t-shirts or stickers. And now through the end of the year, you can get those for 20% off if you go to banjopodcast.com and go to the store, and then just make sure you enter the coupon code BYE2020, BYE 2020. I think the BY has to be all capital letters, but I'm not sure. But anyway, that will get you 20% off your order. I am already out of certain size and color combinations, but I'll be restocking soon, and this is just a way for me to clear out what I have, give you all a good deal, and I should be getting more soon. But yeah, check that out, banjopodcast.com, coupon code BY2020. Let's see, what else do I have to do? I have to give shout-outs to some of my favorite people, and I am, of course, talking about my lovely, talented Patreon supporters. There are two official supporters of this episode. The first one is Sean Braddock. If you run into a guy while you're in Memphis, Tennessee, playing a left-handed Deering Sierra banjo, chances are that's going to be Sean. He's finally back here after retiring from 26 years of service in the Air Force, including a whole bunch of stints overseas. So, Sean, I give you the picky-fingered salute, and thank you for your service, and congrats on your retirement. And, of course, thanks for being a Patreon supporter. The other supporter of the day is Rory Johnson. He is a self-described banjo nerd, which I think most of us probably fit that description, don't you? But, man, he told me the kind of stuff that is just exactly what I love to hear. He listened to all the episodes multiple times and discovered a whole bunch of new artists that he likes, and even managed to score some private lessons with a few of them, including Chris Pandolfi and BB Bowness. So, Rory, thank you so much for your support. And like I said, that's really just, that's really my goal with a lot of this. Is some of my favorite comments is that you discovered someone because of the podcast, or that you are now supporting some of these artists' livelihood because of hearing them on the podcast. That's what this is all about, is building the community and supporting the people who are making the music that we love. So Sean Braddock and Rory Johnson, thank you both for being Patreon supporters. Anyone else out there, go to patreon.com/banjopodcast, and that's how you can sign up to become an official sponsor of the show. You know what? I don't do too much of this, but pretty soon I'm actually going to throw out another bonus prize for anyone who is a Patreon supporter. I referred last time, I'm kind of transitioning here to the episode at hand, the second part of my conversation with Pat Cloud. in the first one, you heard me mention that Pat did an exercise during the interview where he composed a piece of music right on the spot. And that did happen, and that was going to be part of this episode. But as you can tell, these episodes are just running really long. I already have over 2 hours between the last one and here. And what I'm going to do is I cut that out of this episode, but I am going to offer it as a bonus episode for all the Patreon supporters. So if you want to hear Pat compose a song in real time, which, like I said, is absolutely fascinating, you're going to want to sign up on that Patreon page, and I'll get that out here as soon as I can. One more thing to mention, I don't know if all of you noticed, I put out a bonus episode just yesterday. I'm not sure when this will come out, but I put out a bonus episode with Doub Pearce, and if you haven't listened to that, that's going to give you a bit of context for what you're about to hear. Doub helped me a lot with this interview. I'm not going to rehash the bonus episode, but the best part about it, this episode is great because Doub is a great bass player, and a lot of this episode is just him and Pat jamming on some of the ideas that Pat has. So go back and listen to that bonus episode to get acquainted with who Doub is, and you'll hear more from him throughout the episode. And other than that, I'm really excited for you to hear this next installment of the conversation with Pat Cloud. He gets really into some of the music theory ideas. So definitely, if you're interested in playing jazz, sit back and try to learn something here, because Pat has a great mind for it, and he was very generous to share a lot of the information with me and therefore you as well. So here it is, the second part of my conversation with jazz banjo player Pat Cloud. So going back to references from your jazz book, you really have a structure to it, and I'm curious if that's something that you followed yourself in terms of your practicing habits.
That's a great question. That is a great question because it has a little bit to do with my history. I had some key lessons from jazz players.
Such as?
Joe Pass, vibraphonist Dave Pike, and guitarist Ron Ashtay.
Okay.
And
I'm familiar with Joe, but I assume those other guys
they were local guys.
Yeah.
Dave Pike is known in Europe quite a bit.
Okay.
Really beautiful player. He gave me the bebop rules.
Bebop rolls?
Rules.
I was going to say, I thought you didn't believe in rules.
No, you only hear what you want to hear.
Okay, I guess so. I have banjo
You're a
player
banjo
ear.
player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things about the book that's leading up to it. In other words, there's one portion in the book where I call it the journey to 251. 251 is a very seminal jazz cadence, and it if you're playing a lot of charts, you can take a look and see if 251 chords are grouped together, and what that amounts to. Say we have G. That's a 1 chord, 2, 4 chord, 5 chord, relative minor 6, minor 7, half 5, or diminished, and then back to G again. So 2, 5, 1 and G would be A minor to D. This sort of sets. This is the subdominant function. Dominant function, and it comes back to. Well, in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to take a whole key and explore it and find out what a whole key is. And part of that is that just the chords that I went through, those chords, G, and well, I'm doing is starting a G scale off of each note. Okay,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
about that, that's right. So, you have a. The previous two chords are in the G scale. So you can use a whole G scale for those three chords.
Sure.
You have to keep in mind the actual chord as you're doing it. But when you get to where it goes from the D7 to the G, you have to really not play a fourth note. You can't play C as the first note of that. In other words, I can't go. But you got to do that. So
Yeah.
So you have to stay away from that C note right at the point
Where it goes back to the one.
where it goes back to the one.
Sure.
So that's one thing to practice. I think people practice the G scale without the C, which is where take that note.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And it keeps it. If you took all the notes of a regular G scale and you just played them on a piano,
All at once?
all at once, it'd sound like a C chord.
Really?
I've got no reason to lie to you now. No, it has a subdominant sonority. Okay, but if you scooch it up to C sharp, it cuts the chromatic scale right in half, and it sounds more like G than a regular G scale does.
For the same
For the same
kind of
thing.
reason.
Yeah, if I had if piano and showed you could just scooch it over to C sharp, and it
Yeah.
sounds like G.
Huh.
And so you got.
Yeah.
So that's a jazz pattern, you know.
Yeah. Are those called boundaries or boundary notes? Is that what they're referred to?
Well, he's headed towards the target notes. If that are
Target note.
or guide
Oh, is it?
tones.
Oh, okay.
Guide tones.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it sounds like a
Or enclosures? Is that
Enclosures,
okay?
Really?
Yeah.
I that's interesting.
That's a Brent Vardstra term, I think. The guy who does Learn Jazz Standards.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it around.
Yeah, there's a lot of different takes.
So
That's what I mean.
what you were saying though is that you had these critical lessons from these guys, and Dave taught you about the
Dave
2/5
Pike,
ones,
yes.
and I guess what you meant is how to identify like those tonal
Tonal
centers. or
centers,
the-
yes, exactly. Where you
Okay.
can group chords together with a scale.
So sometimes there's like an A minor and a D7, and there might not even be a G, but you're supposed to identify that as having the
Well,
tonal center
here's the
of a
thing.
G.
Here's the thing. The book I wrote before was called "The Key to Five-String Banjo,"
Okay.
and it was a book on basic five-note pentatonic scale, and that's the G, A, B, D, E. You pull it out of a G scale.
Yeah.
Well, the notes you don't pull out are the fourth and the seventh,
Yeah.
which is the tritone.
Uh-huh.
Okay? When you're working with the tritone, you can take and make sensitive tones out of the extended harmony. Now, what do I mean by that? If you have D7, you can extend it to a 9.
Yeah. Yeah, I just heard you do that a second ago, yeah.
Well, Dave Pike, what he told me is that you can, and I got this from the Joe Pass book. What jazz players like to do is to create more tension on the dominant chord.
Yeah.
So that involves the sharp flat 9 and sharp flat 5. So let's see, A minor, sharp D7, sharp 5. There's the D7. You substituted for that, so, and that goes up here. So you have a voice. You have that voice leading. Okay, so the flat 5 would be, let's see, ready? Yeah, so and that's going up. All these are proceeding from the chord tones of an A minor. And so the flat 9 is another one. That's going down, you see. And the sharp 9. Okay. It's going to the major 7.
Okay. Yeah.
So these things are showing voice movement within the resolve. And because they're flatting the 9, sharpening the 9, flatting the 5, sharpening the 5, that gives scale choices. And what he taught me was that you've got a choice of a diminished scale, you got a choice of an augmented scale, you've got a choice of a hybrid scale, which they call a jazz minor.
Jazz minor, half step up,
Lydian,
jazz minor.
Yeah, Lydian, which is like this. Sounds very exotic.
Yeah.
Well, the reason that they use that, because it gets all of them. It's the sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 5, flat 9. So it's just a beast of tension.
Right.
It's
One size
a
fits
growling,
all kind of
it's a growling
gnarly,
beast ready
yeah.
to devour a major chord. So it's a very pretty exotic scale if you listen to it.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Let's see. I was trying to think. So it comes to one chord and it's like a big sack of potatoes. It just
Would you want me to play the tonic notes of those changes under you and just play that 2/5 a few times just so because I think what Keith was pointing out earlier is that a lot of the listeners, they're not hearing what you're hearing in your head.
No, and I understand that. There's a bit of ear training involved with it because it's a kind of, how do you say, it's a, oh, you got something
But
there?
if I were to play...
You got something?
If I were to play, like, under you, like that 2/5 you were playing.
Okay.
What are you in?
A minor?
A minor, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, that does
I
help
love
here.
hearing you play with the context underneath it. It's like, because we
It's
can
hard to
hear
do
the
with just a
chords.
banjo. Yeah.
Oh yeah, gosh, impossible. With
Right.
those instruments.
What did you learn from Joe Pass? I'm a big fan of his, so I'm curious to know.
He's very kind to me. At banjo player shows, he must really need some money for lessons. Give lessons.
I've heard some
But
other
he would
stories
play-
about him, so that could be true.
He said the first thing he said, well, man, can you play some tunes for me? So I played him a couple tunes, and he says, well, okay, how would you play this? And he'd play a little phrase, and then I'd mess around and finally mimic it, and then he says, what about this? And he'd play that. He says, you play with your fingers like that, and it says it reminds me of Lenny Breau, who used to play fingerstyle, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then he said, here's what I think you should do. I think you should learn all your major and minor scales. Okay? He says, you do that and come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
We never, he was out of town all the time and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But so I thought, I was telling Doub this, I said, I'll take a month and a half, 2 months out and learn all my scales. Yeah. Two and a half years
how many
later.
years later, right.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I had to do was try to form them without having any books.
Yeah.
So one of the, do you know the 2-5-1 pattern that it starts in D minor, G7, C, then C minor, F7, F? Do you know that one? I could play that one. One of the things that Dave Pike gave me was this descending progression that goes through 6 keys, 2-5-1.
Huh. And each one becomes the next
Yes,
two?
in other words, I'd go 2-5-1 is D minor, G7, then C major, becomes C minor to F7 to B flat.
Okay.
So you're descending keys in whole steps, okay?
Yeah.
So and then you got to go in and get the chords in between, the keys in between, because you get 6 out of that cycle. Then you got to go and get the other 6.
Yeah.
So it'd be something like,
Yeah.
please, thank you. Need all the help I can get.
So we're gonna go D minor, G7, C major 7, C major 7, C minor 7s. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now all of these takes a major scale. I would take an E major scale there. This takes a D major scale, because the first 2 chords are E minor, A7.
That'll
anyway.
keep you on your toes.
Yeah, it will. It's good for the gray matter. I need all the gray matter I can get at my
Gives me
age.
a headache.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, that was great. Yeah, it's so much more helpful to to hear those root tones and
So
hear
what
the
I was
context.
getting from guys like Dave Pike and Joe Pass, where this was way to practice this kind of progression because it pops up in all the jazz standards.
So how do you actually practice it?
Just like you were hearing, I've got a band in the box.
And you just run it and run it and run it.
Just let it loop,
Yeah.
you know.
But you didn't start off at that tempo. You started off like really slow, probably, right? I mean, I could never have played it at that tempo.
No, the tempo I usually do it at is a...
Oh, thanks. Great.
The first tempo is what I was warming up with because I hadn't done it in a long time.
Hey, let's talk about your instrument and all the other tools of your trade. Tell us what kind of banjo you have and what you like about it.
It's a, I think a 1928 archtop pot, 40-hole tone ring, tube and plate flange. The neck is mahogany because it sort of tones down the spang
Yeah,
of an archtop.
sure.
It's probably a 5/8 bridge. It's a Snuffy Smith, I guess.
So that whole pot is original to the 1928 banjo,
It is.
as far as you know?
It is, yeah.
Cool.
The resonator was refinished, and the neck, made by Robin. So,
Yeah. So if you wanted the mahogany to mellow it out, is there a reason that you're partial to the arch tops? Or is that just kind of something that you found that you happen to like?
the kind of banjo I've always wanted and could never quite get. I mean, I'm thankful I've got a nice banjo to play. I mean, but the one that I always wanted was a Style 6 low profile flathead tone ring,
Okay.
tube and plate flange Gibson.
And what put that in your head as the one to go for?
The key word here is low profile flathead.
Yeah.
In other words, it was what they were experimenting in the transition. The way I understand it, what they were experimenting with in the transition between archtops and flatheads. So they were lower profile, and for me that had the clarity and the kind of thing that I really like. When I'm not playing so sloppy, I can get really nice, clear response from up the neck. And I guess with a lot of bluegrass players, they have a lot higher action than I do.
Yours is relatively low.
Well, I could give it to you. You could check it out and see what you think. But I once saw Earl Scruggs play for the first time at Disneyland. And Freddie Hart was opening. And naturally, I got to the right seat so I could look right up the neck of Earl Scruggs and he was playing. It's like I read people with their left hand.
Yeah.
So I was astonished at how high his action was on that. And then geez, it takes 3 men and a boy to push the string down on a fret. Holy smokes, and. So I like to get a good, clean, clear sound, but at the same time, if I'm going to be playing cross-string type of things, then it's better for me to have it closer than most actual Scruggs players,
Yeah, exactly.
who prefer the flathead. And again, the flathead, because it's low profile, has a little more spang than the flatheads that were to proceed from that, which I understand one of the first 2 or 3 years, I think, was Earl Scruggs' banjo. And I think he and Reno shared a banjo, early days.
They had done an exchange, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. This is just a personal preference. I guess it was Doug Dillard.
Who made you want the
yeah,
arch top?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And
Nice.
Stanley Brothers, Right.
Anything else that you're particularly partial to in terms of type of bridge, type of picks, type of head?
I've had these Dunlap Picks now, I think, for 18 years.
Okay.
I just never lost them. I've got four sets of them broken in.
Uh-huh.
And you notice this? Is this something people do?
Oh, yeah.
Hang them off to the side?
Yeah. And what Pat's, we should clarify, what he's saying is
I'm turning,
the pits aren't straight on in terms of the pads of your
If you stick both
fingers.
of the index and middle fingers out, the blade is turned up toward you.
Yes. Yeah.
On the side.
And that's to get the flush contact point.
Yeah, and I straighten them out instead of to the end of the finger. If I get too excited, I can pull the string right out of the bridge.
Yeah.
Because I've got this angle on it, you see.
Yeah.
But this, it's all feel, and in order for me to make sense of a passage or something, I have to be able to put together a combination of feelings. I don't know how to describe it. It's I don't have to see it. I feel it. The left hand in my mind leads, and the right hand follows.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this hand is the hand that's looking for the melodies and the things that I know work. My little bag of tricks.
Right.
And this hand is I don't have to think about it. It validates whatever this is.
Yeah.
It's so ingrained that I don't have to think about the right hand.
Yeah. Cool.
And again too, I think the more advanced kind of playing, like Bill Keith was saying, is finger independence. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to play random notes with the right hand. It's really hard.
I have enough trouble playing the notes that are prescribed, and
Well, I'll play the right hand to a melodic tune for you. All right. Anyway, so this hand doesn't make any sense.
Right, on its own. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If you go to students, you say, okay, what's this song?
Right.
And if you said to a student, can you play the right hand without playing the left? So I offered this to just at a workshop, and a couple people came up and said, I never thought of it that way. So when I started doing that, I got out of the habit of just thinking in roles where I didn't have to define it, and it became all one thing. And then when I added the left hand, I was playing it a lot better.
Just with more intention.
Yeah, more intention without of course, you have to go over the speed bumps, the places where you a lot of times students will actually practice their mistakes into the song they're trying to learn.
Sure.
Yeah. And so you have to learn how to play so slow. I mean, you get your comfort level. You can play it so slow that you're almost bored. And I mean, if you went. Well, how can you get upset with that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to play,
Yeah.
So actually playing it slow, but you have to get to the point where you want to push yourself. So you've got to keep pushing the envelope a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But you have to really solidify what you're doing at a very slow pace.
Right.
And you can't get upset and distracted when you're playing so slow. I mean, it's your comfort. You got to make yourself comfortable, for crying out loud. Just really slow it down.
Absolutely.
Instead of trying to play fast tune like I did, where I couldn't play it.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, life has interrupted my my routine lately, but that's the way it's going to be.
Hey folks, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but the holiday season is coming up and is right around the corner. And do you know what place is guaranteed to have something for every person on your list? It's Elderly Instruments. And yeah, I am jumping to conclusions that everyone on your list wants a totally awesome banjo or mandolin or guitar or ukulele or maybe some accessories or instructional material. Whatever the case, Elderly definitely has it, and I wouldn't steer you wrong with a matter of such great importance. Elderly Instruments is one of the world's most trusted sources of new, used, and vintage fretted stringed instruments. They're located in Lansing, Michigan, but they do ship worldwide. So even if you are not able to get into their really impressive showroom in Lansing, Michigan, check them out at elderly.com and you'll see what I'm talking about. They have something for everybody. And especially if you're a banjo player like me, you're going to get in trouble really fast. I used to work there and I had to quit just to stop myself from spending money. Their sales staff is down to earth and knowledgeable. So even if you aren't sure what it is that you're looking for, they are there to help. Give them a call at 517-372-7880 and they can help you find what you need. Or again at elderly.com. The Picky Fingers Banjo Podcast is also sponsored by Peghead Nation. Peghead Nation is one of the best sites for streaming video courses in banjo, guitar, mandolin, fiddle, dobro, upright bass, and uke. You can learn bluegrass, old time, and all sorts of styles, and they have the most talented players and instructors in all of roots music. Just a few of the titles that you can get at pegheadnation.com. And I'm just talking about the banjo courses here. You got beginning banjo with Bill Evans. Bill also teaches bluegrass banjo. You can take clawhammer banjo with Evie Layden, Wade Ward style banjo with Bruce Molsky, the banjo according to Danny Barnes, and contemporary bluegrass banjo with Wes Corbett. And no matter which course you choose, that's going to get you high-quality multi-angle video lessons, downloadable notation, and play-along tracks, plenty of tunes to play along with. It's a very thorough course and done with the top notch in video and audio quality. There is a bonus offer for listeners of this podcast. If you join any of Peghead Nation's video courses, you get your first month's free. And the way you do that is you enter the promo code PickyFingers at checkout. That's all one word, all lowercase. So once again, pegheadnation.com, PickyFingers at checkout for the promo code. Get your first month's free. Check it out. Hey, Doub, this is your turn. Anything?
You did a great job of covering.
Oh, yeah,
that's
great questions.
I guess
I wouldn't have thought of.
There was that story you told me. No, I
won't go there. Here we go. Do we want to go over this? Or?
No. And this is something you and I haven't even talked about. I hinted at it the other day, but when I first, this would have been maybe mid-'80s. It was after I'd already met you. You were playing in a straight-up jazz four-piece group with Bob Applebaum, Barry Solomon, and was Gene LeBay the bass player in that group?
He was at a time.
Tim Emmons, no?
Tim Emmons was there.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And what made that happen? Because this was after you were already, when I heard of you in the late 1970s, you were the guy who was introducing
traditional jazz to the 5-string banjo, and that's what I wanted.
Somebody
to know.
should have told me about that.
But like, how did that happen? And how did you end up playing? You played.
There were guys like Peter Schwimmer that was doing a lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
Great player.
Yeah, boy, he is really good. But you ended up playing on some show in Nashville or something.
I don't remember that.
Oh, see,
Good God,
it's
that's
all
awful.
over. You played San Felipe, Anthropology, and a couple of other tunes.
Oh, wait a minute. Was it like a television show
Yeah.
type of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was up near Grass Valley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
on your YouTube channel.
It
Pat.
is. Or,
Do I
well,
have one?
It's attached somewhere because that's where I saw it too.
It says-
Exactly.
Doesn't it say Pat?
Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know. I don't know who posted them, but they're definitely linked to you. So.
There was a group called Amazing Phrasing,
Oh yes. Okay.
and we had a steady gig at a place called the Banjo Cafe in
So
Santa
glad you brought
Monica.
that up. Anyway, so you came together at the Banjo Cafe?
As near as I can figure, I was sitting down with Barry at McCabe's guitar store. He was teaching guitar there. So he'd get a student cancel, and I'd go up to his room, and we'd sit there and throw jazz solos back and forth with each other. And I think Bob was giving lessons there too. So that was probably the nexus of how we all met. But I don't think we got together as a group until we were offered a job. I think Barry brought it up, and he said, all we need to do is find a bass player. And Tim Emmons was one of the people. Gene LeBay was another. I was one other gentleman. I'll think of his name in a minute. But yeah, we could just play nothing but jazz tunes, as well as whenever a bluegrass tune we'd want to play, or something like that. It was just a wonderful way to practice on stage. Yeah, I've still got some tapes of those things.
Was that fun for you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh sure. I mean, at least I was getting a chance to try to work out stuff. I'd know that we have the gig, so I'd sit down and try to write out. My MO was to write out eighth note solos that show chord connection, so that I'd write out maybe 3 or 4 of them, so I wouldn't know which is which after you practice them, But then that way, they would instead of trying to force a solo onto myself, it would appear as it would appear. Because every time, I know maybe you can relate to this, both of you guys, but I used to practice. I got to get this lick down. I just want to play this lick. We're going to play somewhere. I want to get this lick down. So, you get up to it, and it just disintegrates. It sounds like Fido's rear end. And then 2 months later, when I'm not expecting it, bam! It just pops right up. When you don't expect it. It's like the muse of music is saying, "No, we won't give it to you right away. We'll wait a couple months, and then if you're worthy, we'll allow you to come up with it."
Got to incubate and percolate.
Exactly.
And all that.
That's right. Yeah, the synapses have to grow, and the dendrites need to embrace each other up there. And
So you've talked about McCabe's a lot, and that place obviously had connections for you, and you made personal connections there. And
it was a wonderful place to make connections.
Probably.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Now there was this local place we had here called the Banjo Cafe, and a lot of the local talent, including Pat and other guys, played there. Did that place hold any significance for you? I miss it. It burnt down years ago, but it's like it was one of those places you could go to and hear great players play.
Oh, Ralph Stanley played there. Bill Monroe played. He'd be in town or something like that, and he would really almost donate his time to come in and say, and we're going to be here next. They're really nice guys. I mean, the bluegrass people are just down home and just real people. And it was a great place, a great venue. While the guy that owned it played banjo.
I'd be surprised if you
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Raul Mazzoni was his name,
Right.
Renzo was his father, and they behind in the kitchen making pizzas and serving wine and all of that, you know. It was one of the things that those things are good for developing because it gives you something to work for, you know.
It only seated 50 people or something?
Yeah,
was
it
tiny
is
little
very,
place.
very intimate.
And you never knew who was going to be in the audience. I remember looking out from the stage one time, and Tony Dow is sitting there with the date, Wally Cleaver. You know, so you always got people, because we're in Los Angeles. You never know who's going to be sitting there.
Somebody told me Dustin Hoffman came in for a while. You know,
heard that too.
Yeah.
Great.
But anyway, yeah, it's. I was curious how that place. It seemed like it would be a nice local place for you to get to play a lot.
Yes, and it was a nice place for a lot of acoustic musicians to gather. It was really great. To this day, I wish there was something that replaced it in a way. But things being what they are, when I was throughout the '70s in Long Beach, they'd have these little open storefronts, and you'd get a coffee pot, and it'd have a free microphone. You know, you could get up there and sign up and get up there and play. You know, back in the old times. You know, and the storefront wasn't that expensive. You know, and then you'd get yourself a coffee pot and some tea bags, and it didn't have a liquor license, but you know, it'd have the local talent come in and. The venues like that are just few and far between nowadays. You know.
I mean,
I tried.
You did great.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely gotten loads of cool stories and knowledge out of you, but if there's anything else that I don't know, any knowledge that you feel like you still need to share about.
Thank you for letting me get over myself, you know, initial, because when you asked for that, I'd always promised myself that I wasn't going to do any more of that kind of thing, because I'm just a working musician all my life, you know. I'm lucky I got away with it, you know.
Is that how you feel? Like you got away with something?
Well,
like
I mean,
you pulled the wool over everyone's eyes? And
I don't know. It seems like I was 16 and we just played a place, pizza parlor, you know,
and just never stopped.
And they gave me $15 and a pizza, and I thought, man, this is the deal. This is the deal. Now all I got to do is get over my stage fright, you know. Well, I'll give you one little thing. The first time I played, it was with a band called the Piney Woods Pickers. Mm-hmm. It was Pat Ball, Evan Anderson. I'll think of the rest of the guys. But it was the first night that I ever played anywhere. And we had rehearsed, and I was about 15 or so. And they had this little stage in the back there, you know, maybe 6 inches tall, a little stage that was tucked in the back there.
Just enough to call it a stage.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd practice. How I practiced. I just practiced. And I got up there, and the first set, just caca. I just fell apart.
Because of the nerves?
The nerves.
Okay.
Right. And the guitar player comes over to me, and he says, "You okay?" I said, "Man, I'm shaken in fright." He said, "Well, look around you. What do you see?" "Oh, there's a family there and a family there." It's pretty empty, isn't it? And he said, "Yeah." And said, "Why does 6 inches off the ground mean anything? Aren't we in the living room playing like we were?" Mm-hmm. Well, I never thought of that. So I learned how to perform, which is you take the initial adrenaline rush and you settle down, mm-hmm. and you get into the zone and you get into it, you know. And I'm sure Segovia has the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Judy Garland at Carnegie Hall, you know. But it doesn't matter. It's just the idea that they want to like you. You know?
Right.
They want to.
They're cheering for you.
Yes,
yeah,
they're
pulling for you.
they're hoping that they can make a connection. You know.
Mm-hmm. Another prompt that Doub kind of gave me, I don't know if he had something specific in mind, was I think he wanted me to ask you about your changing views of music from when you started, in contrast to maybe now. I don't know. Was there something specific that you had in mind?
Banjo music?
I don't know.
Just in general, I was just something that I was personally curious about that I just wanted you to ask. And if it fell on its face, it was your fault, not mine.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to. But everything about this will be my fault.
Because you started so young and you've gone through so many different kind of genre changes and things like that on one instrument. I mean, what's changed for you as far as music in general is concerned?
What's changed for me is that I don't know. It's this kind of thing where when you approached me for the first time, I was very afraid of it, in a sense, because I don't. I think that I've been so lucky to be able to get away. I do feel like I've gotten away with it because there's people better than I that deserve to get more recognition. Have you ever heard of Carol Best?
Yeah.
He is one of. If I have an inspiration, Carol Best was one of my most inspired things. Yeah, and I often wonder how many great players for this instrument have gone by the wayside, but maybe didn't want to deal with the business of music or didn't know how to deal with the business of music, and never got the recognition they deserve for being, real excellent players that nobody knows about. Besides, what's the notoriety about famous banjo players? Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, it's an oxymoron.
I mean, come on. Yeah, they're exactly right. It's almost a Larson cartoon in a way.
There's a famous Bela Fleck quote about somebody asked him what it was like being the best banjo player on earth, and he said, "I imagine it's probably similar to being the best kazoo player."
Well, that Steve Martin was on, I forget, Jimmy Kimmel or somebody, or one of the shows. The moderator asked him, "Well, is banjo the only thing you play?" And he replied, "Well, would you have asked the same thing of Yo-Yo Ma?"
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
This is just my thing, but I am such in awe of people who are trailblazers. I mean, people who cut through things that nobody else has done before, and that's what Pat did. That's why, for me, I so much wanted you to do this podcast, because it's like I don't mean this, but it's like maybe out of sheer ignorance he just said, "I'm going to do this," and he just went.
It was sheer ignorance.
Okay.
Yeah, and it hasn't stopped. It's a kind of ignorance that should I take up a horn or something and. Yeah. Instead of copying horn things on banjo, I should get a horn and copy it. Yeah.
But for people like me who grew up wanting to play the banjo, it was just such an inspiration to be able to have somebody who's gone someplace that nobody else has gone before.
Well, that's cool. Very kind of you. It's sort of like a Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah. You're Captain Kirk of the banjo.
Right, and the tribbles are taking over as we talk. Yeah.
I know you don't carry a lot of online presence, but is there anywhere...
PatCloud.com.
That's what I was going for. I want people to be able to find... plug your... We didn't even touch on this, but I don't want to, have us here all night, but you have some new ideas for an educational online system. Now, why don't you plug that or talk about what your ideas are?
18 years ago, I had a website, the patcloud.com, and I brought up Whois, the internet company that keeps track of all the websites, and I got this great URL called banjolessons.com.
Huh.
And after seeing all the stuff that's out there, Ross Nickerson, good God, what a great website. All of the stuff that they've got for banjo now, I honestly felt that I didn't have anything to offer. Well, what I decided to try to do, and I'm still trying to mull it over to see, I want to grow the website organically. I'll give some of the basics, maybe like that. What I want people to understand is that by being alive, you are being creative. You can't. Remember that saying of "be here now," live in the now. Well, you've got no choice. Even if you're thinking of things in the past, you're doing it in a now moment.
Right.
And then you're worried about the future. That's now. You're worried about you're creative. You getting out of bed for some people is a creative thing. After a while. So you're always being creative, just naturally.
Yeah.
So just take the banjo as play the strangest kind of things that you think. And then when you mess around with it and it's really strange, you come across something, it really makes it.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with something tonight because, because knowing music theory, I'll give you the example, the B7 and the E minor, for instance, they go together.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I was trying to do was just keep the basic understanding behind something, because everything matters, but it's not like I'm consciously have any formula. It's like I have to back off when I start to insist that I'm supposed to play something a certain way, or this is allowed and this isn't. Somebody quoted me as saying there are no rules. Well, that's not true. You might make the rule for yourself, and then you go ahead and break it. Yeah. And the other rule is that if you're going to play banjo with your feet, take your shoes off. That's a good rule, don't you think? Yeah.
So I remember when you were describing it to me a while ago, your idea had something to do with the mode of interaction between you and potential, students or contributors to this educational website. I remember it being really interesting, but I can't quite recall exactly what the vehicle was. And maybe you've even moved on from the idea since you originally told me.
I don't think I need to, repeat everything that's been out there. There's been so much. It's basically all out there.
Okay.
The thing that isn't out there is people have this idea that they need inspiration or something to create, or they need somebody to teach them so that they can create, or something like that. So the first thing I thought people should do is take any kind of melody that they grew up with and just play it. Just, in other words, get used to the idea of using the instrument to find stuff, Mm-hmm. So, it's any melody that comes to mind. For one thing, if you're not ready for rolls, you can find a little bit of solace in the fact that if you can play, you got a free chord, and you can find as many, if you can hum it or sing it, then chances are you can find it on the neck, I thought that would be a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Then there's so many techniques out there for putting things into, three finger rolls or something like that,
Yeah, definitely.
So if you can chord the melody, then you've got fingering. You got finger patterns.
Yep.
And
just like that, you sound like a banjo player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you just work the pattern through, remember, you're not applying rolls. I want to make that. I'm not against rolls. I just think chopping up your right hand when you can just sort of feel through a melody or emphasize it, it might take a little bit of time to get something that you like, but if it's something you make up, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Sure. So I had the idea is what could I offer? Urging people to explore their innate creativity, and never thinking that what they can do for themselves is not worthy of it. They'll think, well, the amat, a Latin root. Amateur is for the love of something. So if I could gather people because they love to do something, rather than having a regimen of chords and scales and rolls and things like that, that might be something that would be interesting. Something, I don't know.
Time will tell, and it's at least a unique approach compared to, like you said, just the din of everything else that's out there. And that's at banjolessons.com or patcloud.com or both.
I still haven't released it from its cage yet because I keep thinking it's all out there. I'm not really contributing that much in terms of people who have already done all this stuff already. It's all out there online. But the thing that's not out there is making up a song.
Yeah.
It's satisfying yourself, which I so haphazardly tried to do here. If it isn't working, you can go ahead and cut it. So,
I'm guessing that I'll keep it in, but
all right.
But
well,
glad to know I have your blessing to put it on the cutting room floor if absolutely needed.
I acceded to everything you want. So.
You definitely did, and far more. And I've kept you long enough, so I'll probably release you here. But
thank you so much.
But yeah, everyone check out
Appreciate
those websites.
Doub, Keith, you're the best. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. However you were convinced to get over yourself, as you put it, I'm glad it happened, and it's been a great time. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This is Keith Billick. I really appreciate the Patreon supporters of today's show. That was Sean Braddock and Rory Johnson. Go to patreon.com/banjopodcast to not only become a supporter yourself, but to also get access to the bonus Pat Cloud material of him composing a tune in real time before your ears. As always, you can contact the show at pickyfingersbanjopodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to go get your Picky Fingers merchandise, t-shirts and stickers, 20% off by using BUY2020 coupon code at banjopodcast.com. So other than that, I think I'm done with this. I'm going to get to work on the next one. Hope you all take care. Have a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time.